Hello, everybody, and welcome to It Matters Radio Spoken Word Guest Broadcast. And I'm your host this evening. My name is Monica Brinkman. If this is your first time here, and as always, joining me is the fabulous Kenneth Weene. Hi, Ken. How are you?
Feeling fabulous. How are
And
you, Monica?
Ken, I'm fantastic. I've actually been so looking forward to doing this show with you. I see two lovely ladies with us tonight. So could you
Yes.
introduce them?
Okay. First, on her own screen and from her office, is Jody-Lynn Reicher. And Jody-Lynn has written a book called Reaching God's Perfection, Stories of Gratefulness. And we're going to see a trailer for it a little later in the show. And Jody-Lynn is, in addition to writing, she does massage therapy, and she does something very important and interesting, I think. She teaches young women self-defense particularly before they go off to college. And by the way, just as an aside, I saw something absolutely wonderful today. Some young people have come up with a nail polish that reacts with chemicals.
Hmm.
So if you just put your finger with the polish into your drink and stir it around a little, if it has GBH or any of those kind of drugs that people use to set up a date rape kind of thing,
Right.
that it changes color.
Oh,
How fabulous is that as an innovation?
a good idea.
Yeah. Now, Jody-Lynn also is herself very athletic, very into cooking healthy, very into living healthy, but except for one thing. Then she gets in this ring and mixes it up with somebody. She's a mixed martial arts fighter who is now, I understand, taking on the world of boxing. By the way, Monica, did you know that at one time I boxed in college?
No, I didn't know. So you have something.
Oh, yes. I boxed in college, and I held the school record for
Really?
the backward dash.
Oh. My dad was a boxer. They used to call
Oh,
Joey Earn. So, yeah. So, a little bit about boxing. He taught us all how to box when we were little. So, who else?
my told me how to run away when he got his belt out.
Exactly. Now, who's
And
this lovely lady next to you?
my other guest this evening is not a stranger to It Matters Radio. She is Christy White, and Christy has been on the show before. She is a poet,
Yes.
and she has been doing something also very interesting in terms of changing her life. Christy has decided to go back to school. And although she was already very highly regarded here locally in Arizona as a poet, and she was, among other things, president of the Arizona State Poetry Society, she decided to go back to school and get her Master's of Fine Arts in writing. And I just thought that the idea of people changing their lives is something really interesting. So I wanted to share, since we have two poets, I wanted to share one of my poems that I wrote shortly before I moved out here to Arizona, when the idea that I no longer wanted to work in the field of psychology was beginning to perk in my head. And my wife and I went to Chicago, and we went to the Chicago Aquarium. And I wrote this poem. So this is one of my very earliest poems, but it is about making that decision that you two ladies have made. So I thought I would share it. It's called I Wouldn't Want to Anthropomorphize. I wouldn't want to anthropomorphize, not about penguins at the Chicago Aquarium. I wouldn't want to over-identify with the rock hopper trapped on the highest ledge, marching unsure-footed back and forth, not quite learning the narrow passage, or perhaps inhibited by the Magellanites playing house and talking about the weather, which they can no longer remember. Never changes when one lives in glass cages. I wouldn't want to overinterpret or trap marching back and forth, unaware of the desperation a lesser species, such as man, might feel in her place.
Oh, that was very good.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And, well, anyway, it got published, which I thought was pretty cool. And
Yeah.
my
Nice.
but that was my feeling that I needed to change something. So, Jody-Lynn, tell us what made you decide to make changes in your life and what kind of changes and direction you want to make.
Well, I think what it was is I was born in 1962, and back then, women really didn't have a lot of opportunities, and I watched my mother struggle with a lot of illness, and my dad was really pretty aloof. And I kind of, you want to admire your parents, to a degree. But I realized that, by the time I was 4 or 5, I realized I didn't want to be my mother because she was just so sick. And I wanted more freedom. And I looked over the fence, and my mother always said, don't look over the fence. But I looked over the fence at my brother, and I saw how much fun guys had. And I said, why can't I just be anything? And I looked at my body, and I realized I'm always going to be small. So I can't be a firefighter because I can't pick up 180-pound men and 60 pounds of gear on them. And so I thought, well, maybe I want to go be, a Marine. And I thought, so I dreamed of being a Marine. And I started doing that when I was probably 5. I mean, from what I can remember. And there was no Marines in my family. So that started me. And once you have the idea that maybe you can be anything, and you dream it and you think it, and every night I would say a little prayer. By the time I was 7 years old, I would say a little prayer that I could be this really courageous person that, I was someone that I wanted to save people. I wanted to rescue people. I felt it was very honorable, and I loved my country. I still do. And I would do anything for the people in this country, and I would do anything for anybody in any country for freedom. And I've always felt deep. And so I think that included me being free and seeing that I was going to jump on every opportunity and not turn down anything, even if I thought maybe I can't do this. I decided that anything that my mother was not allowed to do, I was going to do. And so that threw me, I think that's the thing that progressed forward. And the thing that really boosted it was I looked at the ailments that my dad had and my mom had, and my dad would always say to me, and he didn't always stand by it, but he would always say, you live in the greatest country in the world. And I realized there wasn't a bomb dropping on my head. We didn't have a lot of money. We lived in a house, we lived in a barn the first almost 11 years of my life, but I never knew it was a barn because it was converted into a house. And I kept realizing, I was having a great life, and everybody thinks you're the Brady Bunch when you're 6 years old or 5 or whatever, but I realized that I wasn't crippled. I had 2 arms and 2 legs. I could see, I could function. All I had to do was work hard, serve my country, feel honorable, and everything would be great. So I had to remain being grateful. And if I didn't, then, when you would get down, how do you get back up? You got to find these little things, roses, birds, deer, grass. Someone walks into your life, holds a door open for you, American flag, anything simple. And my dad would say, you got to be grateful because you got a roof over your head and food. And we always heard this over and over again. But I actually did realize it on a very deep level. And I think that was like my blessing. I'm not talented in anything. That's how I look at it. I think I developed skills. But I think my talent I was born with was feeling that contentment of knowing if I just do the right thing and be honorable and be grateful all the time, that everything will pan out, And so that's...
Your great talent is being able to look toward a future, a positive future. A lot of people have trouble with that notion of a positive future.
Wow, I never thought of that.
Yeah, that's a great strength that you offer to the world, and it comes across very strongly in your book. Now, you didn't become a Marine, however.
No, I did.
Oh, you did?
I went into the Marines right on my 18th birthday. I signed the papers, and I went in just a couple months later, and I I went in and I was, before that I was paying my mother's mortgage because my parents were like in the middle of this divorce and it was not good and the money was short and all that. So I just, I gave her whatever I had because my sister was 13 and a half years younger than me. And my brother at the time was 2 years older than me. And he was out of the house. And I went into the Marines, and my recruiter, who was a really good guy. I don't know how many people would say that about their recruiters, but because sometimes they get mad. Oh, they signed me up for 2 years. So you hear people complain. But this guy was really on the ball, and he said to me, "Listen, I know your family situation, and I don't want you to be away from your mother for more than 6 months." Mm-hmm. And he said, "I want you to go in the Marine Corps Reserve. So you go through the same boot camp and everything." And I was in the first boot camp where they trained women for combat.
Yeah, I was going to ask that question.
That's what happened.
You
That's
had to
a long time ago.
Because there were, I mean, it was unheard of to have women really in the
way.
Yeah,
it was. We were on the cutting edge. There was a lot of fight over this. I actually should have brought a newspaper article to my office today. I have a big picture of me in the Bergen Record from 1981 when we graduated and from boot camp. And then we all went, some went active, some went reserve. And that's where I learned how to drive trucks and tractor trailers and Jeeps. That was my job. I was a grunt. And then I love trucks. I don't like them as civilian vehicles, but to do it for a job, I always wanted to try it since I was a little kid. I was such a tomboy. Oh my God. And
I could drive those big trucks.
My God. Oh,
I just wanted to drive bulldozers.
Oh, you did?
So I can relate to that, yeah.
Oh, I never drove a bulldozer. And I've never drove a tank. I've been in a tank, and that's wild. But trucks and tractor trailers, it's just like there's something about it. I don't know if I'd ever go back and do it again. Maybe, if somebody was sitting as my A driver and they re-instructed me, maybe I would. But it just fascinated me. So I got to, be a Marine, drive tractor trailers, and still got to go back to make sure my mom and everybody was okay. And that was really important to me. And I didn't really think I could do that, but it worked out really well. And it was the best thing I ever did with my life. I have to say, it was a lot of great things that I've enjoyed, but that is it. I feel fulfilled. And I was mortared only once to go to El Salvador. Ronnie called us up, Ronnie Reagan. And I said goodbye to everybody. I figured this was it. I'm either going to be dead or I'm going to come back in 3 months and nobody will be the same. We were in the plane and I was sitting next to my truck and my 5-ton, and I felt the whole, I think it was a C-130 tilt, and I thought, okay, this is it. I'm going down.
Scary.
And what it was is they called it off. And that was, I think, the beginning of the Iran-Contra. That was in the early 80s. That was, I think that was October 1982. No, November 1982, right around that time frame.
So you never saw a battle, but you came that close.
Came that close to landing in El Salvador.
Yeah.
And we got sent back to the States. There was 5,000 Marines in the air going.
How about
a lot of people don't know that. That's pretty funny, huh?
Yeah.
So how long how long was your hitch?
October 80 to October 83 was active and active reserve. And then I went October 83 to October 86 where they could call me up for like 9/11 or anything where they need you. It's called unobligated time. So they can just call you up and say, listen, we have to put you on active.
Yeah. And why didn't you stay in the Marines?
Where did I stay? I was in Paris Mountain.
Why didn't you stay in?
Oh, why didn't I stay? Well, something happened that I didn't think was going to happen. I met a man. I didn't plan on this at all. I just wanted to serve people, and I didn't care if I didn't live past 40. I wanted to be a state trooper really bad. I wanted to be a police officer really bad, but I really wanted to be a New Jersey state trooper. And at the time, 98% of the state troopers in New Jersey were former U.S. Marines.
Right.
And that was one of the reasons that I have to go in because it'll give me the edge in boot camp for state trooper. And I made the height requirement. They had just passed a new height requirement. And I before that, I was introduced to a lot of troopers, and I spent a lot of time with police officers. You'll see in my book, as a child. And
remember that.
Yeah. And so it was 1979, the summer of 79, end of June, and I got selected as one of 28 kids to go down to Seagirt, New Jersey to train with the troopers. I think it was like 10 days.
Right.
And I was so turned on. I mean, I wanted to be a trooper since I was 10. And then I was 16 and I'm like, I'm doing this. And so I was really bent on it. And I trained. I mean, I went to all these police explorer meetings from, I don't know, for like 4.5, almost 4.5
You did everything you could. Yeah, to be a cop.
So anything I could do. And every 2 weeks I spent time at a police department, or I went up to their municipal and I listened to Judge Mueller, do all the little cases and everything. And they taught me about narcotics. They taught me how to fire weapons. They took me to the police car. They did a lot with me for over 4.5 years. Great bunch of guys. And the troopers were wonderful. And I met Norm. I had to get a job. Now I was active reserve, but I was, home. So I took a midnight shift job loading tractor trailers for UPS. And right before they gave me the loading job, so I figured I could save money and go to school for 2 years. You get your police science degree back then. And so they had me out in the midnight shift unloading docks. And there was, I think there was like 20 docks I had to handle. And I had to crawl into the trucks and grab the packages that fell. And I had to go out and manually crank up the legs so everything would slide down. And my husband had 4 docks. And I saw him one night and I thought, all the other guys, not that they were ugly, but they just weren't, I was looking for, if I was going to meet a guy, I wanted someone who had an education, because my dad didn't. I wanted someone that was very honest.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't care about looks. I really didn't. My mother would see me date guys in high school and she'd go, "Why are you dating him? He's not really very good looking." I say, "Because he's safe." And I said, "I don't kiss on the first date." And I said, I was looking for a proper person. I was looking for a gentleman, and I wanted a man who would give me equality, but yet be well educated and keep me cerebrally stimulated. I mean, I get bored pretty easily.
Okay.
So
you met Norm.
There he was.
And you're still married.
On the dock. And I went, he'll never ask me out. He's too good looking and he's so handsome. And oh my God, he knows how to dress for this job, and he stays neat. He doesn't have any grease on those white painter's pants, Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden one night he called me over and I said, "Yeah, Norm, what do you want?" And he goes, "Could you get me the package under that tractor trailer?" I said, "Oh, I'm sorry." So I crawled under and I had grease all over me. And really delightful to look at. And I handed him the package. And he said, "So I heard you're in the Marines." I said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "So what does your boyfriend think about you being in the Marines?" Mm-hmm. And I looked at him and I said, "Well, I don't have a boyfriend." And he said, "Well, I'll be your boyfriend." I said, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah, I'll take your number." I said, "Well, okay then." And he was well educated. He had a degree in psychology at the time, so he knew what he was doing. And
wait a minute. I got a doctorate in psychology, and none of us know what we're doing.
But he really was like, he read me. It was like really crazy. Okay. So about 10 days later, we were having a hot and heavy conversation. We're down in South Jersey. It was a Sunday afternoon. We'd gone down to the beach. And he said to me, I'm Jewish. I said, "You're not Italian?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "And I know you're Catholic." I said, "How do you know I'm Catholic?" And he said, "Well, it's the nose." I said, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." So I look at him and I go, "So what are you getting at here?" He goes, "Do you want kids?" I said, "So you're really that interested in me?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, yeah, that'd be great, but," he goes, "But I only have one favor to ask of you." He said, "We have kids. You can't be a state trooper." And I went, "Oh God, the thing I dreamed about since I was 10 years old. Oh my God, here I am, And I'm looking at him, I'm going, God. I said, "Okay, can we put that to say this? I really don't want to be married to a state trooper. It's too dangerous. You want to go into homicide and narcotics." Yeah. He says, "I don't mind you being a Marine because I'm used to you. I get it." And I'm like, "Okay." And he said, "But being a trooper or going into narcotics, it's too much." So then I said, "Okay, let's move to another question." He goes, "How would you raise the kids?" And I said, "Like religion?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "I don't know. What do you want?" He goes, "Well, I said, "You want me to raise them Jewish?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "No problem. I'm there." He goes, "You're kidding me." I said, no, I'm not your traditional Catholic. And he said, well, my mother's going to like that. And then after that, I met his parents, and it was bingo. And I didn't become a police officer. I went into accounting and finance. His father was a CPA, and I was always good with numbers. And that's what I did.
That's Christy's field. Did you know that? She is.
I didn't go the whole CPA way.
Well,
I didn't either.
No, she didn't either, but
you're in it, right? Oh, man.
Very interesting, because Christy and I, of course, have known each other a long time. And we were talking, in fact, it was last night, about some of her background. And she had written a poem about women fanning themselves at church, because Christy comes from Kentucky. And in Kentucky, in those days, if you went to church, you better know, and you were a woman, you better know how to fan yourself. That was required. It was part of the Sunday school training, right?
I wouldn't make it there. I don't know how to fan myself properly.
So, anyway, the thing that was very interesting to me was, of course, these fans that they used were shaped like a little palm leaf, and they had a Bible verse on it. And since it was for the women, as Christy pointed out, it was always a Bible verse about quietness and obedience and things like that. And I know Christy is not quiet and obedient. And her thing as a kid was riding horses. And she had the temerity, if you will, to ride astride. No side saddle for my friend. But
You're just shocking, Chris.
But when it came time for her to pick a career, you know, one of the things we were talking about was the idea of a woman going in to a lot of things was just unheard of. And what was it you wanted to be?
Well, I always wanted to be a journalist or writer first, but I also wanted to be a veterinarian, and I also wanted to drive a train. And
and these are not things that those days a woman had a path to. And so she was kind of encouraged. What were you encouraged to do? Become an elementary school teacher or something?
Oh no, not ever a teacher. That never would have worked for me. I started working for my dad when I was like 14 years old in the office, and just accumulated bookkeeping and accounting experience. I tried going to school a few times for that, but it was boring.
Yeah, accounting principles 1. Oh yeah. Oh wait, yes, I already went through that. Yeah, no fun. No fun.
You know what? You know, Ken, I can remember. You know how they have these when you're a junior or a senior in high school, how they have people from different organizations come in to recruit the graduates. Well, I actually went over to people that were into broadcasting, and they told me, no, women cannot go into broadcasting.
No, well, yeah, I had a little bit different problem in that I wanted to be a writer, and I could have been a writer, except that I come from a very traditional middle-class Jewish family, and I had to have the first name of doctor.
Yeah.
That had to be before your name, yes.
So I had to go become some kind of a doctor. And you know, I've since decided that the reason my parents were so insistent on that is that they always had a trouble remembering. I have one brother, and they always had trouble remembering our names, and they would always call us by the wrong name. And this way they can just say, my son, the doctor.
There you go. Nice and easy. Well, Ken, do you want to take a break for a minute, and we'll go ahead and show the.
Yes, but before we do that, I just want to remind people the name of the book.
Yes.
It's by our guest this evening, one of our guests, Jody-Lynn Reicher, and it is called Reaching God's Perfection: Stories of Gratefulness. And now let's take that break.
Okay, here we go, people. Enjoy. We'll be right back.
Well, that was a great, great trailer, and thank you for sharing it with us, Jody-Lynn.
You're
Now,
welcome.
Christy, you don't have any trailers,
Nope.
not yet, because
Not yet.
you haven't published a book yet.
Not like
Formally.
formally.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to your first book of poetry, but of course you do have some wonderful poetry. But before we ask you to read one of the poems, I want to ask, what made you decide to go back to school? You got a nice job, you got a nice life. I know Foxy is her little dog.
Oh,
And
okay.
Foxy was complaining to me the other night about mommy being away from home so much, to taking classes and things. But what made you decide to do it?
Well, I had always wanted to go get a degree in writing in some way or another. I took some college courses in journalism because at the college that I first went to after I graduated from high school, and I enjoyed journalism from the standpoint that I got to write, you know. But and it taught me a little bit of discipline, but it wasn't what I wanted. And then I moved from Kentucky to Arizona, and just kept, you know, the bookkeeping and accounting is incredibly portable.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's portable from, you can move across the country and you could still be doing the same thing.
The numbers don't change.
No, they don't.
And you're always in demand, always. You know, people
Yeah,
always need you.
Businesses always need you. So I stuck with that, but I continued to write and write poetry and essays and short stories and you know, here and there I'd get published, and then I took some business courses and was bored to death with that, and I took a whole accounting suite and was bored with that, and a few years ago, well, more than a few years ago, probably more than 10 years ago, I started to go back to college to get my writing degree at the University of Arizona in Tucson. But then life happened, and
One must it's like Norm waiting there on the truck dock.
yeah.
That's right. You never know what turn you're going to take in life. You never know.
That's true. And so it just, you know, life kept happening, you know, and so 13 years later, just about, I had reestablished myself in the Phoenix area as a poet and part of the poetry scene, but also, you know, still doing accounting. And one of my newer poet friends, who was the young man actually that was going to be here tonight and couldn't make it, Jeremiah Blue.
Look him up. He's quite a slam poet.
Yeah,
Okay.
he is.
But anyway.
But he mentioned that he was going back to school himself to get his master's. and he was going to this low residency program, like super low residency program, and encouraged me to come meet the program director. So last summer, I went out, went down to, they have a whole brick and mortar campus over in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. And that could be Wilkes-Barre, I'm not sure how you exactly pronounce that.
Neither are they.
Wilkes-Barre. Yeah,
It's Wilkes-Barre. Yeah.
It's Wilkes-Barre.
But they have a campus there, and they're like a regular college there, but they also have a good writing program for the masters and the MFA. And but they have also here in Phoenix, in the Mesa area, a location that it's a satellite location.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went and talked to them, and what I heard was that they are really dedicated to putting out working writers, not just someone that writes.
Wow, that's great.
Yes. Yeah. So they teach you not just to how to better your craft, but how to also
do something with it.
Yeah, and arrange your life so that you can manage that. And they put you together with really, really good mentors, and it was priced at a price that I thought, I can do that. I don't even have to get a loan. I can do that.
It's just wonderful.
That's great.
Once every 6 weeks, we get together at my class, which is quite small here, gets together in Mesa. Mm-hmm. And we do a whole, what they call the weekender, and that's a low residency weekender. They also have a low residency where you spend a week at the campus.
Yeah, in Pennsylvania.
You
are going to go there, I hope, at some point. Just if only so you can learn how to properly pronounce the name of your alma mater.
Well, if I do go right now, I'm going for the masters, but if I go for the MFA, then yeah.
Oh, I thought you were. This is the master's program, and then it gets extended to the MFA.
To the MFA.
So, what kind of stuff are you writing in this program?
Well, last term I was writing short stories and wrote scenes like drama scenes and just a lot of different things, because the first term is your foundational term, and you do foundation course, which you get to sample everything, and then you do pick a couple other courses, and I picked fiction and poetry. So I was writing a lot of all of that and reading a lot of all of that. And then in the next term, you choose your focus, and my focus, I thought, well, poetry.
So did you bring a sample?
I did.
How about a sample of now, is this one from before or since you've been doing? Since.
Okay. Good.
Both are since, yeah.
Okay.
So, they all still require editing, but
I should mention, Christy and I belong to a small group who get together once a month and work together on our poems. So, because that is part of the craft of writing, is to share it with somebody else, especially aloud, so that you can really see how your words are impacting others.
Right.
Yeah,
they don't throw things at you. You're good.
Well, before I published my last book, you looked at it, right? Gave me a critique, and ended up that I followed what you said, and it came out much better.
That was not your last book. That was your last full book. You since then have published 3 small ebooks.
Well, yes. Yes.
So I don't want. She's not just a one-trick pony. This lady.
No.
So look for her on Amazon. Look for her on Amazon.
You'll
Christy,
find all of us there. Yes.
let's hear.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, well, a few years ago, I went to Scotland and was able to travel up into the Highlands. And this is not a poem that I wrote at that time, I wrote thinking about that time.
Okay.
Urquhart Castle. Finally, I walk the green below the castle tower. Loch Ness spreads beyond broken walls. I climb uneven clockwise steps, the better to protect you, my lady. Stop to look from the open, narrow window where the wind gathers and blows through. Look out and down. Where is Nessie keeping herself? A small, thin, rocky beach between the wooden dock and the castle beckons. I leave Urquhart to its ghosts feeding their chickens, saying prayers to a god that seems to have left too. At water's edge, I loose the small bag of gray ashes, sprinkle them into the gentle waves. Mom believed in the beast bound in the loch's cold, deep water. I suppose I do too.
That was very good.
That's neat.
Powerful.
I like that.
This was, of course, your mother's ashes.
Felt like I was right there. So that's a
That was a
good.
great description.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Beautiful place.
See, Christy always wrote good poetry,
Yeah.
but I think she's gotten even stronger as a poet from
So,
taking this course.
Ken, I think it's wonderful because look at the opportunity that Christy embraced. And it doesn't matter anymore what sex you are, how old you are.
I think that's one of the most fascinating things. We're finally in this country beginning to realize that people should be able to go back to school.
Yeah.
In the old days, that was not an option because it was seen that the reason to go to school was career. And you had to be able to amortize your education over X number of years. And if you got to a certain age, then you no longer could do that. Meanwhile, in a lot of other countries, most noticeably Denmark, but also Scandinavian countries, people were going back to school at any point in their lives.
Yeah, why not?
Even an 80-year-old was not only allowed to go back to school, but encouraged and financially supported so that they could go back. And with wonderful, wonderful results. And one of the things that struck me as I was listening to Christy's poem is obviously to see the connection between the mythology, the old country, and her mother's death was not something a young person could have done. You had to be old enough to be able to get that kind of perspective.
Yeah.
So the idea that we are constantly being able to remake our lives, to change our lives, to grow our lives and again, no matter whether we're men, women, no matter what our ethnic or racial backgrounds, no matter what our sexual orientation, that opportunity, that freedom, which is never one of the enumerated freedoms in this country, is now, I think, a cutting-edge freedom.
Yeah, I mean, look at Jody. Everything that she's done also. It's remarkable. And you're so little. You know what I'm saying?
I'm very tiny.
She's fighting in the flyweight division. They wouldn't put her up against me.
No.
I just sit on her.
That's the problem.
Isn't he bad? I know.
Well, I would like to say that I was inspired by, probably close to 15, 20 years ago by a woman that I met who was in her 90s. She was working on her doctorate in archaeology. And she was one of the people that was always called to interpret the Mayan glyphs because she did it so well. They'd call her down to the sites to come to the digs.
At her age, huh?
At her age, 90 years old.
Wow.
And I was so impressed with that I knew, it was like I threw that out into my future and I said, I will someday do that.
Good for you.
And this, like I said, this program is really great. The rest of the classes I do online, and I have a mentor that I'm in contact with all the time, and I really, really enjoy the interchange. And it's like having a class, but having a lot of freedom in that class. And there's a respect for me as an adult. And so it's very different than being in among a bunch of kids.
And by the way, folks, if you happen to be interested in pursuing that, it's Wilkes University, Wilkes. If you happen to be here in the Phoenix area, there's actually an open house coming up on Friday, October 21st and Saturday, October 22nd at their facility here in Mesa. And you might want to go look online for that or contact them, C-Writing, as in creative writing, at wilkes.edu. And I think they have other campuses across the country beside their main campus.
They're satellite ones, yeah.
So you don't have to be here in Phoenix to take advantage of that, folks. Look,
Right.
contact them.
That would be worth it, yeah. Take a look at it, see if it's something.
Now, when they're
you can
doing
do.
that, Jody, where should they go looking for you to find out about your work with healthy diets and training and all those things? How do they find you?
Well, I do have a website for my fine-tuning therapy business. But where you can find everything is Facebook. I try to put up meals at least once a week. I have, believe it or not, I have a number of pages. I have my regular business page. I have my artist page where I put poets and musicians, and your radio show I put up there. And but a lot of times I'll put the healthy food stuff that I make. I put it on my main Facebook page. So everything's really on Facebook. Whether I'm showing you how to do a stretch or suggesting a stretch, or put up articles on diabetes, Alzheimer's. I do a lot of private research, and then I read multiple medical articles that go back to the JAMA and such. And I'll put stuff up like that. So you can go anywhere on Facebook and you can find me. I have multiple pages, whatever you want to look at. If you want to look at boxing and fighting, you'll probably go to my fight page. It's my athletic page. If you want to go to self-defense,
Your name first.
Well, the main page is Jody-Lynn Rainman Reicher.
Okay.
That's my main page. And from there, you'll probably find my other pages where you'll see I'm connected pretty much. But Jody-Lynn Rainman Reicher is where you're probably going to get the recipes, and also you'll find fine-tuning therapy up there, and then you can see the exercises. And once in a while, I'll put, if you're looking into boxing and MMA and stuff like that, I'll put other people's posts. I like to put up, I'm really old-fashioned. I really like to put up old-school fighting from boxing and everything, because I started watching boxing at the end of 1966 when I was 4 years old. And so I really like the old style. I like how the guys used to train. And I have an old-time trainer, Steve Broder, in Dumont, New Jersey, here at the Yes Gym. And he's in his 70s.
Nice.
He moves like I can't believe he's an amazing guy. He's a wonderful one. And you remember Rocky, right? I love Rocky.
Yeah, Rocky,
right?
Sure.
Well, Steve Broder is like my Mick. I mean, really, he really is. And someday I think he's going to show up with a chicken and tell me to run across the parking lot or something across the street. But he's a real classy. He's a class act. Yeah. And
I once got
a long time.
I once got to see Muhammad Ali. At that time, he was named Cassius Clay.
Yeah.
And to watch that, I mean, it was like poetry in motion to watch that man train.
Yeah. Incredible. You watch it so many. Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. So, and also, of course, your book, I guess, is available on Amazon.
It's available on Amazon and also in the Indies Publishing on there, but it's on Amazon. And then, of course, it's all in it's on 6 different Nooks and Kindles and all that too. It's in that format as well.
Good.
So it's paperback and that.
Yeah. Good for you. So we're talking about changing your life. And that's a good thing to do, especially if it's a change you want to make, if it's something you see happening as a positive way. And I wanted to ask you, what do you see your next change being? Jody-Lynn?
Well, I'm in the middle of writing my third and fourth books right now.
Mm-hmm.
The third one is, I lost my editor last year, but I got a lot of editing done. So now I just have to do all the edits that I've seen, and then I'll have a few of my friends read it and criticize me and whatnot. I write probably 5 poems a week. I've been writing poems since I was 8 years old, but in the last 3 years, they've just keep coming up. So it's been a lot. So it is. I love writing. I want to do. I'm going to always probably have to be doing this because I have 2 kids that are probably going to go to Harvard and something else. I don't know, because they're very bright. I'm very fortunate. I'm going to be working till I'm 102 if I make it that long. But I see myself as still being a therapist. I feel like I will always have this office because I'll probably do self-defense on the side. But as I get into my 60s, because I'll be 54 real soon, probably I'll stay fighting for another 2-3 years in boxing. I really want to do it competitively. I have a world record in mind that I'd like to set at 59. And when I get into my 60s, I'd like to be a Mick. I'd like to go to a gym where there's young people, and it's usually going to be young men. I understand young men. I've been in enough fight gyms where there's just guys. And I seem to get along with the guys that have the most problems. And my coaches from my MMA coaches now in Las Vegas, he noticed that I got along with guys who had like Asperger's, Tourette's, or they had been in jail, or their mom died, or whatever it was. Some of the guys in the old gym used to call me the den mother, and I have a big heart, but I love to help people, and so I would like to go to a gym 5 hours or 4 hours a week when I'm in my mid 60s or so, and just do it for free and train them, hold the pads, listen to their story, and help them and encourage them, go corner them, go to the fights once a month, corner the guys. I've cornered guys before in MMA and in Muay Thai and in boxing, so I know how to do it. And I'd like to do that, and I know I'm not going to get paid for that, but that's okay. And, I'd like to increase doing speeches here and there, but really the book writing and working on bodies. I mean, I meet so many different people, and I can't say their names because it's HIPAA regulations, but they're all people who have pain, but they have stories. Mm-hmm. And I get very influenced by every person I meet. I meet strangers. I had something happen to me yesterday. A friend of mine, and I had found out that his father-in-law was dying of pancreatic cancer. A friend of mine who I admire, he's a young man, he lost his father-in-law yesterday morning. And, a few of us found out and whatnot. And after I saw him, and I was surprised that I saw him, but then it was good for me to see him. He needed to see people. Mm-hmm. So I got into work late because for some reason, the work was late. And I swear that's like a blessing. It was really a blessing. And I was walking and unlocking my door to come into my office, and I had these 5 words in my head. And it was, the greatest man has passed. Now, his father-in-law was a Marine. And in where this guy has his gym, there's a lot of Marine paraphernalia. And I'm thinking to myself, this man was such a great guy. He was like my father-in-law, who, God, I miss him. It's 29 years and I still miss him. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I think about my father-in-law all the time. Every day, all the time. He's always on my mind. It's crazy. Herbie was great. Well, I can't go to work. And I'm thanking God. I'm like, thank God there's nobody walking my door right now, because I start to cry. And I end up writing this poem about this guy I never met.
Yeah.
And I write it, and I say to my friend, I private message him, and I go, I just wrote a poem. You want to see it? I said, I don't know why. And I'm crying as I'm typing them. And I sent it to him. And his wife and him, they really, really, really liked it. And it just kind of happened. And like, to me, that's divine or something, man. I don't know where, you know what I mean? Like, how do you do that? What do you do? So
that's
spiritually, I'd like to.
Ken,
it's nice,
Yeah, these things, they come out of nowhere.
It's like,
so, Your turn. What's your next turn in your life?
Who, me?
Yeah. Then I'll ask Christy, but your turn next.
Okay, all right. Um, I'm going to continue writing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think I'll surprise everybody with the next book that I publish. Um, but actually, I want to downsize in my life because I want to, material things don't matter to me much anymore. They really don't. I, and I'd like to continue to help people in any way I can. That's what makes me get up every single morning is being able to help people, whether it be through a job. And I'm hoping that the radio show just keeps doing that. And I hope it's around for a long time. We're centering a lot of musicians right now
Mm-hmm.
because they have such a hard road, even harder than authors, much harder. It's much more expensive. So I'm hoping that we'll get well known
Mm-hmm.
and we can broaden our horizons in that area. And my main goal that I want to do, Ken, is to
Yeah.
relocate, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
Downsize and relocate.
Size, relocate. Yeah. And I was just thinking about you doing that the other day because I was looking at the weather in Flagstaff.
Ha, ha.
How beautiful it is up there right now.
I'll probably
But
end up
another
there.
month or so it'll be too cold. So what you're going to have to do if you come here to Arizona is you're going to have to kind of go back and forth
Yeah,
between the beaches.
I know he's telling me about Flagstaff. The only time I've ever been at Flagstaff was when I moved across country to California,
Uh,
and it was so cold there that my brakes froze.
oh yeah,
Oh
it's
my
not
gosh.
And that's in
except
Arizona.
below
Yeah.
freezing Flagstaff.
Oh,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But it is in the summer. It's a wonderful place, and then you
Yeah.
see down here into the valley the rest of the year.
Right.
That's it because you I know you and Rich are talking about having something that's mobile.
Yeah, we want to be mobile. Yeah,
Yeah,
we want
we have
to
to make one correction though. What Monica said, and then we're going to ask Christy about.
Okay.
Monica is true. She is not a materialistic person.
Oh, thank you.
Things are not important to her. However, Punky has a very different take on life. And I want
She
people to
does.
understand that nothing in Monica says about not being materialistic has anything to do about Punky's expecting tribute in the form of sardines and tuna fish.
Yeah, she'll take as much as you send her, please.
So, Christy, what do you want to have happen in your life next? What's your intention?
Well, I'm 62. So I keep saying I'm planning for my next 60 years and then maybe the next 60.
Sounds good to me. What are you going to do for the next 60 years?
You wouldn't
Right.
have to worry you'd be famous if that happened.
But you wouldn't remember the first 60 at that point.
Well, what do you think I'm writing now for? But, well, longevity is in my family, so I've always planned a good 120 years or so.
Yeah.
And with going back to school, I'm really focusing more on writing more. And the school, Bonnie Culver is the director of the program, and she is strongly encouraging me to go on to the MFA program, which means I could teach at the university level.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's a possibility. I
And
enjoy.
I know you would, and you'd be giving back to other people a gift also,
Yeah. And I enjoy giving workshops and things like that, which I've already done over the years. So it would be really different. My mother was a teacher, and she loved teaching. It was really something that gave her life
Yeah.
to teach. And my father did what gave him life too. He ran a short line railroad and loved it. So I have good examples in my life of people that have lived what they love.
And,
And
and that's the whole point of it.
Yeah.
I think that's why we can put this show together tonight, because we want people to realize, just by the both of you being here and sharing what you've done with your lives so far, that nothing's impossible.
Mhm.
And
That's true. Yeah.
Life
age
is life
age
is full
doesn't
of
matter. Yeah.
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 It,
Well, my family is also, we're working on a family book. One of my brothers is writing 3 books now, maybe 4.
Wow.
My sister is in the process of writing a book, and I'm offering myself as their editor to help them with that.
oh, how nice.
That's
Oh
great.
God, I wouldn't want to be at that Thanksgiving table. Yeah. Oh my Lord.
Well, that's part of the reason why I'm getting the master, so I get cred with the family.
The heck with the masters. Just bring a heck of a lot of booze. Christy, speaking of writing, I think you have one more poem you wanted to
Yes.
share with us, and I think that would be great to have that.
Yes,
I do.
I love poetry.
I love to read, and so, which is, these classes have had me do some terrible things like read and write.
Oh gosh, I don't know how you can stand it every day.
Yeah, it makes me so happy to be able to do that. So, so this is a poem about reading. Reading a used paperback at midnight. I could tell you that the small dents, bent corners are testaments, no witness to the passage of another reader. But I didn't think of that as I turned pages and read aloud to the calico cat curled at the threshold of my front door. In the pages, very faintly underlined, another's attention placed like a bookmark, old and soft, forgotten. Here, read this. I feel the smallest breath at my ear as I do read the words, and perhaps I hear the catch of breath that this was the moment on the page that illuminates the meaning of the whole book. I pause to admire the phrase, the line drawn beneath the words, and how it takes courage to love this book so much, yet never sign the book into your possession, leaving a breadcrumb like a blessing.
Aww.
It's nice.
Very nice.
That is nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Love that.
I think every one of us, when we write a book or a poem, think to ourselves, wouldn't it be nice if somebody looking at my book, my poem, someday says, oh, gosh, isn't that a lovely phrase? I think I'll just make a note there.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate, that is the ultimate accolade to us.
Mhm.
And when we scribble away, we scribblers.
It is. It is.
Well, I want to thank Jody-Lynn Reicher
Yes,
joining
Jody. It was
today.
delightful.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank
and
you. Appreciate it.
Christy White. And folks, remember, Jody's book is titled Reaching God's Perfection, Stories of Gratefulness. But she has other books as well if you look for her on places like Amazon. And you can also find her on Facebook. Now, Christy is more interested today in reminding you that you can look at Wilkes University's writing program and fine-tune your own writing skills by taking part in that. Hopefully, soon, she will have her own books of poetry, and we will be able to tell people where to find them. But in the meantime, if you want, you can contact her, see Christy White on Facebook.
Mhm.
And she is one of those people, like Jody Reicher, who are well worth getting to know.
Yes, very much so. And I want to thank you both for coming and joining our show this evening. And Um, I think that you'll inspire many people, and that's you're going to help many people also. Great women.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Right.
Ken, you were surrounded by three women tonight. Gosh, terrible, huh?
That's
Lucky
fine.
guy.
I was wondering what monkey was. I expected four.
She's sleeping. I gave her too many treats, so what can I say?
I'll forgive her this time. You know, you know, it's always a great pleasure when we have guests whose lives can teach us something in and of themselves. We have many fine artists and singers and writers and what have you on, but they don't always leave a pathway for us. When I was a kid up in Maine, I loved to walk trails that
Mhm.
people had blazed.
Yes, yes.
That I love the idea that there was a trail there that somebody had blazed for me. And I always took it as a very personal gift. And I want to thank both of these guests this evening because they have both offered us trailblazers.
Absolutely.
Thank you for doing that.
Mhm.
And Monica, it's been a great time to interview these two fine ladies.
Oh, it has
And,
been.
yeah, and I just want to remind folks that please share this program
Hmm.
with people you know and all of the It Matters Radio family of programs. We're on every day with music of all different kinds,
Hmm.
as well as this Sunday spoken word show. And tell people if they miss a show, what they can do is go to YouTube
Hmm.
and look for us because we keep all these shows on podcast availability there,
Yes.
which is kind of neat because, we encourage people to be able to look and share the shows. They're not just an ephemera that disappears down the road.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we try to
Ken,
make it easy.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but Ken, I didn't hear what your next 60 years are going to be.
Aha.
Got it.
Tomorrow I will wake up and I will spend a good portion of the morning trying to remember what I did today. but in reality, I am working on a few projects. I just learned that one of my books seems to be accepted as a project for a movie company, and we're very excited. I can't say too much because it isn't formally done yet, but
Right.
and then I've been working on a wonderful memoir that has been mentioned a few times on the show.
Hmm.
Young man who came over from South Sudan, and he's a very interesting guy, and he's one of the Lost Boys. He was actually one of the earliest of the Lost Boys, and it's a very exciting and interesting, different kind of memoir. And I think we may be getting some very exciting news about publishing that in the near future.
Yeah.
And then I have another writing project that I interrupted to help him with that. I have a wonderful, exciting project. For me, it's historical fiction, and I've not done historical fiction before. So those are the three big things. And then, of course, you reach a certain point in your life, Christy, and like I was joking about, tomorrow I'll wake up trying to remember what I did today. But life changes you. And I am at that point, you may have noticed, getting a little gray. It starts changing you and your priorities and what you want to accomplish. And I have the feeling, I may be wrong about this, but I have the feeling that I'm going to be doing more and more to try to have a political effect in the world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Yeah.
sure quite how that format is going to come, I have been sharing more and more of my political essays online. And
Yes.
people look at my name, Kenneth Weene. I'm the only one in the world. It's so easy. Look, Kenneth Weene. There it is, the only one.
You know, Jody and I are right there with you. You see
Yeah.
our posts. So,
I've got some I think, very fine political essays.
yes.
And I'm going to keep trying to push my views about what's important. Now, they're really a little offbeat in some ways. Because on the one hand, I know that we agree on a lot of things, because I know, but on some things I probably don't agree with you.
Exactly.
But I tend to be, I won't say an egghead, but maybe a soft-boiled egghead. Not a scrambled egghead. There we go. But I do like to communicate it, so that's the other thing.
That's wonderful. That's great, Ken. Yeah, and you keep on doing that. And I wish you much success. I want you to break a leg.
All of us, but not in the ring.
Not in the ring. That's right. You got it. Okay, folks, I think with that, we're going to say good night. And again, please join us every day at 7 p.m., where we will be bringing you music, and we'll have special shows. And gosh, it's just so exciting. And you never know what Ken's going to bring us. So
That's 7 p.m. Eastern time, folks.
Exactly. And with that, guys, thanks so much for joining us tonight. And
Good night.
keep in touch. Bye bye,
All right.
all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.